So in the spring of 1979, my wife Cynthia and I moved to Thousand Oaks. She was pregnant with Christopher at that time. He was born in December of 1979. My whole life at that point revolved around my job. I was driven back and forth to work so I could work in the car, because I left at 5 in the morning and came home at 8, 9, 10, 11 at night. We had maybe a 3,000 square foot house. We bought a 5,000, 6,000 square foot house, the brass and oak kind of place. And we had a condo at Channel Islands Harbor, and our life was going great. I thought we were right on top of everything. New Year's Eve, 1980, 1981, my parents made a New Year's resolution, and they decided that they would stop praying for my protection, because they felt that they were sort of keeping me from experiencing some of the consequences of some of my lifestyle decisions. I was so committed to work. We weren't going to church. My son, he was still very young at the time, but he barely saw me. So they made a decision that their prayers wouldn't stand in the way of God working in my life. After they made that prayer, some startling things began happening. A week after, Cynthia came to me and said, you don't love me anymore. I'm going to move into our condo at the beach. And our son Christopher was diagnosed with the worst case of spinal meningitis in the history of Westlake Hospital, and was given a 10% chance to live. And if he did live, he'd be mentally handicapped or blind or deaf or something. And about a week or two after the episode with Christopher, I was fired from my job. I was the 4th or 5th level rated executive in my company, and I got fired from my job. There was just a major shock to my identity and what I thought my purpose in life was. Hitting bottom was like a ka-chunk, and then ka-chunk, and then ka-chunk, and then ka-chunk. It was not one bottom, but it was the lowest that I could possibly get in so many areas of life. A man that I'd never met before is knocking at my door. And I open the door and he says, would you like to come to Calvary Community Church? And I didn't know what to make of that, but God was leading. And so I went to Calvary that next Sunday, and God started working on my heart. At that point in my life, I couldn't remember ever crying. I'm sure I did as a small child, but it was one thing we didn't do as men. But that first week in Calvary, the tears started flowing down my face. And I was so embarrassed, I just ran out of the church. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want anybody to see the tear tracks on my face. But I knew God was at work. And this continued for a total of 6 weeks. At the end of every message, I was just reduced to weeping. Out of the blue, Cynthia called and said, I believe God is calling us to put our relationship back together. So I had gone from at least in the natural, a very hopeless state of this is broken beyond repair, to miraculously seeing it brought back together. God has numbered our days. We don't know what that number is, but we need to live wisely every single day. There's no such thing as a wasted day, a wasted moment. God saw fit to use me, and I was the worst of sinners. Yet God said, return to me, because I have plans for you. Not plans for your destruction, not plans for evil, but plans for good, beyond anything you could hope or imagine.